No doubt that Indian market is a bonanza for various phone makers. But it looks like India has not incubated an influential domestic brand. Can you explain why that's the case?
So that is actually, if you look at the domestic brands, when the 4G transition from 3G to 4G was happening, and that was the time actually some of these brands were caught in the transition. When I say caught in the transition is they couldn't anticipate that change, and they were still into the feature phones and the 3G smartphones, and that was the time when Reliance Jio came into picture. The operator dynamics changed significantly. The 4G came in India much faster than everyone expected, and that was the time when all the Chinese OEMs, the Xiaomis of the world, the OPPO, Vivo, they started expanding in India. And of course, they were coming from a country that was already transitioned to 4G, and they had a great learning curve over there. So I think some of these Indian brands lost in that transition. They didn't have the capacity to invest in the R&D side of it, and even the local ecosystem in India was not that strong at the time. We had our real manufacturing actually started in 2014 when we started assembling the phones, and now we are reaching at a stage of value addition of 12 to 15% of a phone that can be sourced locally from India. But it is very unfair to compare India 5-year success story with China that has a advantage almost like 3 decades or so. The short answer is a lot of these Indian OEMs, they could not actually build on the R&D side of it. There is still an Indian player, Reliance Jio, and look how they have gained over the years from 2016 to 2021. They brought in the entire ecosystem of the services, and they are now transitioning to 5G, invested in a lot of startups as well. And look at the investments they got last year, right? From across the world. I think that was the highest fundraising ever in any country from Geo's perspective. So that gives a lot of confidence that not all was lost. We are talking about just phones. That might be true, but uh, in other capabilities, a lot of things were going in favor of India. Especially, of course, we do have a good background on the software side of things. You have a very young population that is very ambitious in nature, and very huge domestic demand. So that innovation will continue to happen. And yeah, things are happening, but it will take some time before we transition to the next step or so.
Could you analyze and forecast the future development of India's smartphone market under the impacts of COVID-19?
We are a bit optimistic about it because things have opened up, but we are cautiously optimistic because there is also a probability of having a third wave because of a new variant that we have seen in India, Delta Plus variant, because the Delta variant was very, very infectious. And now we are seeing some cases of Delta Plus. So we have to be very, very careful. But if you look at India as a market, we are a population of 1.3 billion. And out of that, only 530 million are using smartphones. So you have a lot of users that are yet to experience smartphone for the first time ever, which means you'll have the first time demand, the replacement demand, that will drive the smartphone market. And one thing what we have seen in the pandemic, the demand for the smartphone will never get killed. It only postpones. If I have to buy a phone during a pandemic, I could not buy it because of the lockdowns, because of the sentiments. I might buy it after 3 months or 4 months or 5 months down the line, but it won't be possible that I'm not going to buy it for another 2 years or 3 years. So the point is, India is a huge market, is likely to remain. We are forecasting almost like 170 million of smartphones being sold in India this year. That is, of course, almost like half of even lesser than that what we are seeing in China. So you compare the two nations, similar population. China is selling closer to like 400 million per year, India is selling 170 million. So you can analyze the kind of delta that is a hidden demand for the coming years. On the geopolitical things, I think that is going to be an interesting, but we believe that both China and India are the world superpowers. We don't see a big conflict happening because both need each other, and it is not for the interest of the countries, both the country, but the interest of the world, right? Together the population will be almost like 2.5 billion out of 7 billion population of the earth. So we definitely need to look at from that perspective. We are going through the same learning curve that China went through in 90s or 2000s. So let's see how this generation, the tech transition that is happening will unfold a lot of different use cases. So what I believe that 5G will have more potential to impact on India's B2B or enterprise landscape than, of course, consumer will be a part of it, but we believe that on enterprises it will be even more. And we have already seen it happening in China with the NB-IoT and other connections rolling up, and the use cases you guys are building in the IoT side of it. So yeah, we take a lot of cue from what is happening in China as well in terms of trends.